to the gala.
The 1993 World Figure Skating Parade of Champions from Prague.
Prague and the Czech Republic is absolutely jammed to the rafters. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our sixth and final night of primetime coverage from the 1993 World Championships. It was here in '62. Canada had its best ever performances. They came very close this week. Lloyd Eisler and Isabelle Brasseur with gold on Wednesday, Kurt Browning gold on Thursday, and of course that amazing comeback for the silver medal also Thursday by Elvis Stojko. A great week for our Canadian team. Tonight, something a little different. It's the gala. There are no judges, no rules. In fact, the skaters are here to have a good time and let it all hang out for you, the viewer at home. Right now, here's Chris Cuthbert. Chris.
Thanks, Brian. Good evening, everybody. It really has been an amazing competition, from Oksana Bayul winning gold in her first try at a World Championship, Usilva Zulin at last on the top of the podium in the dance competition, to Canadians repeating history and making even more here. Brasseur and Eisler like the Jelenics winning the pairs competition, Kurt Browning like Donald Jackson winning the men's event, and Elvis Stojko making it a 1-2 finish for Canada for the very first time. There's been some great skating competitively, but more great skating to come. And speaking of great skaters, here are Barbara Underhill and Paul Martini.
Well, Chris, certainly it was an extremely exciting Worlds, probably one of the most exciting I've ever attended. There was just no lack of drama or excitement or tears for that matter. And I think the Canadian team just has to be commended because there were just so many great performances from them. The highlights for me were Elvis and Kurt, their comeback story, but I think the biggest highlight was Lloyd and Isabelle finally getting that gold medal. It was just extremely emotional for all Canadians.
Well, Barb, you talked about some great performances here, and I think on tonight's show we're going to see some more great performances. Because of the rule changes that the sport has had regarding eligibility and what you can do as an eligible skater, many of these skaters are doing shows on a much more consistent basis. Because of that, they've had to put a lot of time and effort into their show programs, and I think the entire level of show programs that we're going to see from these skaters out here today is going to be reflected. So let's go to the ice for what I think is going to be an outstanding gala.
Fitting that we begin with the national champion from the host country, Lenka Kulavana, who gave the home fans a lot to cheer about yesterday. Lenka was 8th in the free skate, giving the Czech Republic a top 10 finish in the women's event.
Well, their strong free skate of yesterday is going to be a big boost for this country, of course, because it continues to enable them to send two ladies on to the Olympic Games next year in Lillehammer. And it's always important when you can bring your national champion plus the next up-and-coming skater to enable them to garner the experience that one can only get by attending an event as prestigious as the Olympics or the World Championships.
Sabalenka for the first time at the Junior Worlds. She impressed us then with her style and elegance, and what a week for her here, coming into her second World Championship and getting a top 10 finish in her home country.
Here are the French national ice dance champions, Sophie Monod and Pascal Levanchy. They'll have fond memories of Prague. They finished in 5th place, which is actually one spot up from their European finish in Helsinki just a month and a half ago.
Well, it certainly appears that this is one of the teams in the dance competition that's on the move. As they move up the scale, the Italians Caligari and Camerlengo have been moving down, and it appears as though this will be one of the teams to be considered going into next season.
Shadow of the Duchesnes, and in a field of 6 Russian teams in the top 10, a 5th place showing really tells you something. This is a team that's on the move.
Sophie Monod and Pascal Levanchy, and if you look at the protocol from a year ago, they were going into the season the 3rd-ranked French team, but all of a sudden they are the team to watch from France in the years to come. Next, we'll relive the golden skates of the world champions. Back to Prague as we return to the 1993 Parade of Champions. The most consistent American skaters here this week, the pairs team of Jenny Mino and Todd Sand. They finished in 5th place, and some thought they deserved a medal.
Well, it's really amazing how far this team has come in a short time they've been together. It's almost as though they've been together for years.
to the rocky week we saw from Urbanski and Marvel, I think we're looking at the next United States National Pairs champions. In my mind, they've got a look. There's something happening out there between these two, and I'm excited for them for next season.
Well, they said coming in to the World Championships, they didn't really know how they were going to do because they weren't national champions, and so they had no real gauge of what the judges would do with them, but they were extremely pleased to finish in the top 5.
Well, Canada's disappointment in the women's event yesterday was German delight. Marina Kielman moved up, so did her teammate Tanya Shevchenko. Marina was 5th in the free skate and 6th overall, so she just missed her goal here by 1. She was hoping for a top 5, but thrilled to be here in the Parade of Champions.
Well, I think we had basically written Marina off at this point. There were just so many youngsters coming up in the field, including from her own country. But Marina just showed a great deal of perseverance out there yesterday and surprised a lot of people, including her countrymen, I'm sure.
eligibility rules in place, the German women face a similar situation to that as the American men. They have a former Olympic champion, Katarina Witt, who has announced that she is going to make a comeback for the 94 Olympics in Lillehammer. And for Marina, I'm sure that is something that she has to consider, but I think the person who really has to consider whether she wants to go through with it is Katarina.
German national champion Marina Kielman. Finnish dance champion Susanna Rakamo, Petri Koko are standing by. More skating stars from Rakamo. Without Petri Koko, the Finnish national champions, who are hoping for their first world medal. There's Petri coming out from another corner of the ice. These two may not be medalists, but they are crowd favorites wherever they skate.
Well, Barb, this Worlds was perhaps a little bit of a disappointment for them, and do you think perhaps it was because they weren't paying attention to the dance rules as much as others here?
Well, certainly their style is much more theatrical, and that's where the judges are trying to get away from. They want real ice dance, and I think that's where Susanna and Petri lost out. traditional ballroom style, they're really going to have to take a good look at what they're doing before they decide on their choreography for next year.
Well, throughout the week, we talked a lot about the two great Russian ice dance coaches, the two Natalias, Dubova and Linachuk, but I don't think you can count out Martin Skotnicki. Martin Skotnicki is also a very creative individual, and I'm still factoring this couple into the equation for next season.
Well, we just had the first sixes of the gala posted by the fans. And this was their best competitive year. They had their first European medal, a Skate Canada Championship, and fourth here at the World's Rakamo Koko. In fourth place in the women's event, the Japanese national champion Yuka Sato, and I've been waiting to talk about this all week because her inspiration is not Midori Ito, but my partners, Barbara Underhill and Paul Martini. She watches Unchained Melody about 10 times a day to get in the mood to skate.
You just had to get that in there, didn't you,
Oh,
Chris?
I've been anxious all week.
that her greatest love is actually pair skating. She's always wanted to be a pair skater, but just wasn't able to find a partner. But with two great skates like she had here this week, I think she's probably better to stay in the ladies department.
Especially with the World Championships at her home next year, she'll be one of the medal favorites there. We'll be back for Radka Kovarakova and Renny Novotny, the highest-ranked Czech athletes here. They were fourth place in these World Championships in the pairs event after being silver medalists in Oakland.
Well, I spoke to Radka right before the gala this afternoon, and I said, you know, how disappointed are you? And she said, well, we're disappointed, but now we're looking towards Lillehammer next year.
These wide-eyed fears, I'm here, nothing can harm. My words will warm and calm you. Let me be your freedom. Let daylight dry your tears. I'm here with you beside me, to guard you and to guide you.
I think the only thing that keeps this team from being a serious contender is the technical program. When you watch them skate in a performance like this, they have a champion quality about them. But they've now got to get themselves into a mental frame of mind that they can go out there and put down a strong technical program and put them in a position to capture an event at a major competition.
Well, in my mind, had they been in the running after the technical program, they would have been the ones to challenge for Sir and Eisler.
Real fan favorites. They're from Brno, which is about 150 kilometers away from Prague, although they do skate here now. Radka Kovarkova and Rennie Novotny. Well, if there was a Hollywood script in the men's event, it was written for Canadians with a 1-2 finish by Kurt Browning and Elvis Stoico, but after a rocky start in the technical program, Philippe Candelaro put it all together, and France's favorite came up with a fifth-place performance, and here he comes. Showman Philippe Candelaro of France, who finished fifth here in the men's event. Coming up, dance bronze medalist Angelika Krylova, Vladimir Fedorov, when we return to the Parade of Champions. Welcome back to the 1993 World Parade of Champions. Here are the bronze medalists in the ice dance competition, Angelika Krylova, Vladimir Fedorov. We joked earlier this week that they are playing by the rules. Young couples are supposed to wait their turn, but here they are at their first World Championship as medalists from Russia.
Well, there's no doubt that this team has an ability to create excitement in the building. I thought they had one of the most entertaining free dances here in the competition. And I think the battle for not only the bronze medal, but maybe even for the silver medal is going to continue going into next year's competitive season here at the world level.
gold dance, bronze medalist Krylova and Fedorov from Russia. The Canadian medal winners still to come in the Parade of Champions, but next, Jacques Favart Trophy, awarded for special merit in memory of the late ISU president to Natalia Bestemyanova and Andrei Buchan. Here's ISU president Olaf Poulsen.
It's with great pleasure I have the honor to present to you the Jacques Favart Trophy for your achievements in ice dancing. And a miniature for each of you. Congratulations to your goals. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your attention, and we are really happy to have this trophy. And we think that the best answer for this will be our skating today.
B&B joins Scott Hamilton, Torvill and Dean, Katarina Witt, and Irina Rodnina as winners of the Favart Trophy. Four-time world champions and the '88 Olympic ice dance gold medalists.
Well, we've talked about how far theatrics have gone in ice dancing, and at this level you can see just how far you can take it as we see their interpretation of one of Russia's most interesting folklore characters, Rasputin.
reality goes right over my head.
Well, you almost feel as though you'd want to be given a synopsis as you come into the rink as they do at a theater so you can know what the story they're trying to tell is all about.
Two of the dominant skaters of the 80s and Olympic champions in Calgary, highlighting the 93 World Parade of Champions. Much more from Prague.
That has been tremendously kind to Canadian figure skaters over the years, going back to 1962, and again a big performance in 1993. Doug Steele is the president of the Canadian Figure Skating Association. Doug, did you have any goals in mind for this team when you came here to Prague?
Yes, Brian. The Canadian entry to this year's World Championships is probably one of the strongest teams that Canada's had. We knew that we could come here and do very well. We were here in 1962. One of our better outstanding performances. We thought that we may be able to match that this year. We came within one medal of doing that. It was a very exciting, rewarding week for us here in Prague.
A good week indeed. Let me ask you, I talked to one of the American skaters. They were envious, to be honest, of the American team, saying the Americans are envious of the Canadian team, saying the Americans seem to skate for themselves. The Canadians seem to be a real team. No matter who's skating, the other Canadians, including the champions, are here to watch them.
I guess that's part of the excitement of the whole week. It's been just wonderful to see not only the Canadian skaters and our immediate support teams with our team leaders, the other part of the team that's come along with it, but all the fans that have been here, everybody working behind the whole team, and I guess that's a reputation that the Canadian Association is very proud of. We are a team effort when we get here. It's great team spirit, and I'm very proud of that fact for our association.
Well, you mentioned the association. The Director General of the Canadian Figure Skating Association is David Dorr. You're the envy of every quote-unquote amateur sport organization in Canada. This doesn't happen by accident. In fact, Paul Martini was telling me about an incident back in the 70s.
Yes, the incident actually goes back to 1978, which is really the beginnings of this concept here, which is reaching its maturation in Prague this time. And it's really the development of a plan. I think as any amateur association, you look at first where you've been, you look at where you are, and you look at where you want to be. And that's a plan. It's what financial resources, it's what partnerships you need, such as corporate sponsorships and volunteer resources that are needed in the association. So it's been a long-term plan of some 15 years. We've been very fortunate to have the human resources in particular that have allowed us to do this. But I think the critical thing is the plan and also the right environment for success. And this is a full team. Not only the team here, but a team at home, and 184 at home are waiting to fill these places. It's great excitement.
We have to get back. One final quick question. You're always looking to the future. How far ahead are you looking now?
Yes, I think it's important. Any sport body looks to the future. We're really looking to 98. I think we're ready for 94. 98 is where we're going to be tomorrow.
All right, there's no question you're ready for 94. Congratulations, David Dorr, Director General of the Canadian Figure Skating Association, and the President, Doug Steele. Stay with us on this Sunday night. Lots more to come with a gala presentation of the 1993 World Figure Skating Championships from the Sport Hall here in Prague, the Czech Republic.
In a row, she says Christy Yamaguchi and Midori Ito are her idols, both former world champions, and she has her sights set on winning gold in Lillehammer next year. Lu Chen of China.
Well, Lu Chen was perhaps one of the most consistent skaters we saw here all week long. She had a perfect skate in the elimination round, the perfect skate in the technical, and in the long as well.
not the highlight of the week. Of the free skate performances, which we saw 5 or 6 of them could have won this event, say, 5 or 6 years ago, but it just shows how much higher the level of consistency and degree of difficulty the women's event has reached.
Not only that, Paul, but how much younger they're getting in age. Lou is only 16. Oksana Bayul, who won, is 15. Can't remember the last time we had 2 junior skaters on the podium.
Well, 2 years ago, bronze in 92 and 93, Lu Chen of China. Canadian medal winners, Brasura Eisler, Elvis Stoico, Kurt Browning still ahead as the parade of champions continues. Back to a jam-packed sport hall in Prague for the 93 World Parade of Champions. So many stories of triumph here this week, and one, Alexei Urmanov's bronze medal. We saw him in Europe, and clearly he was far from at his best, recovering from a broken leg. His training was way behind, but somehow he pulled it together and won his first world medal here.
Well, Chris, you mentioned him pulling it together, and Barb, as you mentioned in your opening, the comebacks of Kurt and Elvis. If there's a comeback story, I would have to say it's Alexei's, because to come back from an injury of that severity, hello, board.
Ouch.
Oh, gee.
Is that a 0.2 or 3 deduction in a gala?
No deductions out here today. in the competition.
He's got a pretty good sense of humor, though, and I think he might get a few jabs about meeting with the boards here in this parade of champions. Alexei Urmanov, world bronze medalist in just 19. He's the youngest of the top contenders, and he is going to be around the medal podium for a number of years to come. First world medal for Alexei Urmanov, and the same for Evgenia Shishkova and Vadim Naumov, bronze medalists in the pairs competition as they finally break through onto the world podium.
Well, if the breakup of the Soviet Union was evident in the dance event, it certainly was of the opposite situation in the pairs event. I think we're seeing perhaps the weakest Soviet teams in recent years, and it's up to this team to keep them in the limelight.
Zoom, zoom, misery, you gotta go. Slap that bass, use it like a tonic. Slap that bass, keep your philharmonic. Zoom, 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 and the milk and honey will flow. Dictators would be better off if they zoom, zoom now and then. Today, you can see they're the happiest men. All got rhythm,
mentioned that this year the Russians had probably the weakest pair team in recent history, but next year it will be anything but, because there are pending reinstatements from Gordiev and Brinkov, the 1988 Olympic champions, and the 1992 Olympic champions, Dmitriev and Mishkatunik. This team will have their work cut out for them.
Evgenia Shishkova and Vadim Nalbov, and world silver medalist Surya Bonley is still ahead from the 1993 World Parade of Champions. Prague in the 93 World Gala. Comeback, such a familiar theme threading its way through all these World Championships, and does it ever apply to 19-year-old Surya Bonley, the silver medalist here after a near disastrous 1992, including an 11th place finish at the World Championships. It was nice to see her come back so well.
Well, it used to be that Surya's main goal in skating was to be the first woman ever to complete a quad in competition. Well, last year she realized that maybe she needed more. She went home, worked on her style, her artistic impression, and this year it really seemed to work for and pay off for her with the silver medal.
Chris, you talked of her as a comeback story, but I sometimes wonder if we as the media or the countries for which these skaters are skating expect too much from these athletes too soon. So perhaps you wait and let them develop and come into their own, and I think that's a situation that we have here with Surya.
I think that's a very good point, particularly in France. The expectations of an Olympic medal were overwhelming for her last year. And when we talked to her at the European Championships in Helsinki, there was no one around her. There was no media interest in her at all because they'd written her off. And she felt quite relaxed because of that. She said she was just too much in the spotlight last year. And It was much more relaxing this year as she got ready for these World Championships. Well, here's a couple that has made a very orderly climb up the dance podium. 5th in 1990, 4th in 91. They were 3rd in Oakland. Silver medalists this year, Oksana Gricek and Evgeny Platov of Russia.
And here's another look at the free dance that they performed in the ice dance competition to win them the silver medal. Both the top two teams in the ice dance event skated to blues routines, and I find that somewhat interesting because the blues isn't even a part of the Russian culture. But what they said earlier in this week is that they learned about the blues through an American dance troupe that used to visit in Moscow.
Elvis Stoico's on deck, back with the world silver medalist when we return to Prague. Back in Prague, and things are about to liven up because Elvis is in the building. And with a name like that, you should rock this place. He stole the show at the gala after the national championships in Hamilton. And I'm going to go out on a limb and predict he does the same right here, too.
Well, it'll be the second time he's done it this week because there was nothing wrong with the free skate he had here, and it certainly was one that stole the show.
Don't ever let me be. I only wanna be by your side. Please, don't ever let me be. I only wanna be by your side. Girl, you really got me now. You got me so I don't know what I'm doing, yeah. Oh yeah, you really got me now. Got me so I can't be that night.
Chris, that so seldom we get to see.
Well, I'm glad we have seen it because it proves to me that he can really relate to an audience and get a crowd pumped up. And now I think what he's got to do is incorporate some of that into a long program that does the same thing for him in a competition environment.
Well, you know, I've been waiting for the Elvis impression. I heard he does quite a good one.
He sure does. You know, I asked him about that program, and he said, I'm really surprised at the impact it's made. He's only used it a couple of times, but so many people have come up to him and said, that's the Elvis we want to see more of. What a great guy. And, you know, you heard David Dorr talking with Brian Williams about the team aspect about this Canadian unit in Prague, and I think he really felt the weight of expectations. He had to deliver a 1-2 Canada finish, and after it was all over, he really did sound relieved that he'd helped Canada do that.
Well, he certainly is the king of the technical aspects of men's figure skating. There's no one here who skated a more difficult program. And if we can see, like I say, more of what we've just seen, he's in the driver's seat.
Stoico, the world silver medalist, Kurt Browning, Isabelle Brasseur, Lloyd Eisler are still to come. We'll be back with more from Prague in a team that really put it all together, so to speak, this year. They got together early in '92 after the '92 skating season, and now Mandy Wotzel and Ingo Stoyer are silver medalists at the World Championships. It all started with a gold medal at Ski Canada in Victoria last fall.
Well, I think if there was a surprise silver medalist at this World Championship, it was this team. They were second at the Europeans, but someone had attributed that to the poor performances of Shishkova Navov and Kovarakova Novotny, but they came right back here at this Worlds and proved to everyone that they are a team to be considered.
team seem to be a little bit nervous out here today. But what amazes me is the fact that they've been together for such a short time and already have really developed a look together on the ice. That's something that you really need, and I think we'll see a lot of this team in the future.
Andy skated last year with Axel Rauschenbach, and they're kind of like Mino and Sen, the Americans. They got together and really had great success in 1 year, and we kind of joked that maybe there'll be a few more changes in the pairs event now. Well, after the success of those two.
They really are the first team to emerge from Germany in so many years.
Well, again, it's an example, I think, of the sport changing in regards to how soon you can come onto the scene and be recognized. And this is an example. This team was been together less than a year. They come to the Europeans, win silver. They come to the Worlds and win silver. So aside from the dance event, the other disciplines are certainly recognizing talent as soon as it steps on the ice. Well, Barb, what I like about the pairs competition is that this team represents one of 5 different countries in the top 5 placings in the world, and I think that's really healthy for the sport.
Mandy Botzel, Ingo Steuer of Germany, the world's silver medalist. Oksana Bayul, the new women's world champion, is up next. We'll have more of the 93 World Gala in a moment. Welcome back to Prague, and I know many in the sport hall have been looking forward to this. The new women's world champion, Oksana Bayul, and when we left you yesterday with that emotional shot of Oksana on the podium, I'm sure it touched a lot of hearts.
Well, you know, I was talking to her coach, Galina Zmevskaya, afterwards, after the medals had been awarded. And Galina told me, she said, Oksana's tears are God's kisses from her mother, who died of cancer. 2 years ago.
There's something I have to say to you. If you promise, you'll understand. I can only contain myself when in your presence. Once more, touch me. No matter love, woman.
As I watch her skate, she strikes me as the type of woman who would go into a dance club, get on the dance floor, and never, ever get off till I finally brought out the house lights. She's just a delight. She's got all of the qualities that you want to see in a world champion, and I think she's...
I just don't know how she got them in her 15 years. I just can't believe she's just so young.
Well, we learned something, though, today. Maybe Michael Jackson's been an influence on her. We should clarify the age because it has been well publicized that she is 16 years of age, and that's the information in the media kits that everybody receives. But there was an error, and apparently she just turned 15 in November of 1992. So 15 first Worlds and a gold medal.
Well, for her, this is a little bit like winning a lottery. Her life will never, ever be the same. It's changed overnight.
And you were telling us Victor Petrenko was pretty pleased about it.
Well, apparently Victor's been trying to reach them all week long and hasn't been able to get through. And afterwards, after the medal ceremony last night, they called him and reached him in Peoria, Illinois. And I guess they talked for about an hour and a half. And he was pretty excited for her.
of Ukraine. Solid gold dancing from Usova Zulin when CBC's coverage of the 93 World Gala returns. Well, we saw Oksana Bayul a few moments ago just emerge on the world scene. Here is a couple that for 6 years it took them to build to their gold medal winning performance here in Prague. Maya Usova, Alexander Zulin.
Well, we saw Bishamanov and Buchan skate earlier in the show, and I had to think about what they were doing. This couple kept it basic. You know exactly what was going on out there, and they did it like nobody else in the world can.
I'm standing here going, I wanted to see this as their free dance.
Exactly. I couldn't help but think if they'd done that for their free dance, there would be sixes all over the board right now.
There's no team out there that can work the man-woman relationship like these two can, and when they get the right vehicle like we've just seen, they're breathtaking.
Well, they were in the spotlight, or in the shadow of B&B for a time, and then Klimova Ponomarenko, but clearly they are the class of ice dancing now. There's Natalia Dubova, 24 years as an ice dancing coach, and every year she seems to have a champion. Last year she had coached at one time each of the three medalists at the World Championships.
And we've talked about Dubova and her ability to create, and it's that type of woman, it's that type of person who you have to be working with to continue to be stimulated and motivated to come up with performances like we've seen from this couple over the years.
And here's one you've seen before.
Yes, this is a portion from their free dance from last year's World Championships.
Earlier in the week, we saw that feature on them, and they're skating now in Lake Placid, and how much more comfortable they've been there. I think if you'd asked them a year ago whether they'd be skating outside of Moscow, they would have said never, but it certainly has allowed them to refocus on skating again. And I think they're going to find out the demands of world champions.
Well, I'm still sitting here thinking back to the tango piece that they opened their performance with out here tonight. And by far for myself, it was the most inspiring piece of ice dancing we've seen here all week.
Well, the next piece they're about to perform is also a signature piece for them. It's Autumn Leaves, and we've seen this a number of times before, but it's also one of my favorites.
Well, if you're stuck inside on the East Coast avoiding the snowstorm and this is the first ice dancing you've seen all week, you have just seen the best ice dancing of the week, in my opinion.
Well, it's enough to warm anybody up, isn't it?
Maya Silva, Alexander Zulin, world ice dance champion. And don't go away, the men's world champion, Kurt Browning of Canada, is next. Welcome back to the Sport Hall at Prague. Here he is for the fourth time in 5 years, world champion. He rekindled memories of Donald Jackson in this hall, memories of Humphrey Bogart, and memories of the old Kurt Browning, too.
And I think we're going to see a little bit of Humphrey Bogart out here this afternoon.
You must remember this. A kiss is still a kiss. A sigh is just a sigh. The fundamental things apply as time goes by. And when two lovers woo, they still say I love you. On that you can rely. No matter what the future brings, as time goes by. Moonlight and love songs never out of date. Hearts full of passion, jealousy and hate. Woman needs man, and man must have his mate. That no one can deny. It's still the same old story, a fight for love and glory, a case of do or die. The world will always welcome lovers as time goes by. It's still the same old story, a fight for love and glory, a case of do or die. The world will always welcome lovers as time goes by.
Well, despite the little spill that Humphrey took out there, there's a quality about Kurt's skating that we just can't simply deny this year. And I think it has to do with the Sandra Bezic factor. Remember, she took Brian Boitano, turned his skating around, developed the qualities that got him the gold medal in 1988. Same with Christy Yamaguchi last year. I think that's what she's done for Kurt Browning this year.
The big question now is, with the announcement of Brian Boitano coming back into the fold, into the world of competitive figure skating, where will her allegiance really lie? Because she's choreographed brilliant programs for both of these outstanding athletes.
Well, Brian Boitano will know what program he has to beat because according to Kurt's dad, Bogey's going to Lillehammer.
Huh? Yeah, today I get another try.
Well, I think Bogey needs to settle down a little bit out there.
What's Bogey like? Cool, though?
Well, Barb, you mentioned, we discussed this fall, that I can't get over the ability that this man has to compete and deliver when it really counts. It just never ceases to amaze me.
Well, it's won him 4 world championships now.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying how do you feel? They're really saying, I hear babies cry. I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I never knew. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Bogey just needed scene 1 to get warmed up.
Oh, what a week for the Canadians here at the Sport Hall in Prague. Well, this certainly has been a special time for Kurt in Prague. At the team closing get-together last night, he was telling us that this might be his most satisfying victory, considering there were times last year when he wasn't sure he'd be able to skate competitively again because of those back problems. Looks like one last curtain call for the 4-time world champion.
Trees of green, red roses, I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Well, almost a perfect 10 this week for Kurt Browning. Canadian teammates Bresser and Eisler, the new pairs champions, are next from the '93 World Gala. In Prague, and nobody wrote a more emotional script here than the new World Pairs champions, Isabelle Bresser and Lloyd Eisler.
You know, I remember this moment so well. Being introduced as world champions for this first time. It's pretty special.
There will never be another tonight. Come on, you got your motor running, and I got my engines on. Say the word and I'm ready to go. You gotta ride your broom right into my room. Keep up the groove and make yourself better.
been announcements recently from Tamara Masvina, the coach of Rishkapinik and Dimitriev, as well as from the camp of Gordieva and Grinkov, that both of those teams, both former Olympic champions, will return to compete in Lillehammer. And I'm sure that's something that Isabel and Lloyd are very well aware of. But I suspect that knowing Lloyd and Isabel, their attitude will be, we'll bring them on.
But I'm sure at this point, they're just trying to savor this moment. Right there!
Well, there were silver medalists behind those two couples. Yuka Sato's helping out here with costume. But, you know, I don't think they've ever been more ready to take those two couples on.
Well, as we discussed with Saria about the media expectations, the country's expectations for certain athletes, I think sometimes, you know, we get premature about it, and when the time is right, it's usually very evident.
One of the things that struck me after they won the gold medal is how many of the foreign media were so delighted for them. Talked to a German fellow, and the German couple finished second, but he said, I was so glad Herb finally won gold. World champions Isabelle Brasseur and Lloyd Eisler of Canada. Well, they've always been one of the highlight acts at any gala they're in, but this must be extra special, having been the last gold medalist to skate. And it doesn't look like this crowd's going to let them go yet. Looks like they're going to take a victory lap here at the Sport Hall in Prague. Well, Isabel once said that skating with Lloyd's a little like being on a roller coaster. Now we know what she meant. And they've been riding high all week. Stay with us. Another special Canadian pair is next when we return to the Czech Republic for more of the 93 game.
That was a long day, eh?
Yeah. Man, tired.
Well, from the new World Pairs champions to a pair of champions.
Hey.
Kurt Browning, Elvis Stoico. Not sure what these two have up their sleeves, but it ought to be interesting.
Oh, there's some up there. Oh, wow. Oh, they're nice people. This is great. They're nice people, too. cool. Maybe we should skate for them.
Sounds good.
And I hope I do a better job this time. Hey, there's some music. Should we cross over? Okay. That was cool. I liked it.
Okay, let's try something else.
What do you want to do?
Triple forward?
Okay.
Cross like that?
Don't hit me.
Okay.
Let's give him something big.
The double axle, hop, 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 triple toe thing? Sounds good.
Okay.
I'll count.
Pretty loud.
Okay. One, two, three, four, five,
One more.
six. Oh,
I couldn't hear you, no?
that was wild. I can't even hear myself. Okay.
Okay, you go do triple axle.
Me?
Yeah. I can't.
What do you mean you can't?
I'll make you do this. Show us how.
Well, playing a little anything you can do, I can do too. They are two great ambassadors of this sport. And ambassadors for our country as well. Make no mistake, these two are extremely popular everywhere skating is seen.
That was fun.
That was fun.
Do it
And
again.
it was
another
fun to
time.
watch,
Okay,
too.
sounds good.
We'll be back to wrap up 6 nights of skating after this. Oh, here come the champions out to take a bow for this great crowd here at the Sport Hall. And for the first time, Isabelle Brasseur and Lloyd Arsler are part of the gold medal group. What a throw for them. And at this time, we'd also like to salute the Canadian fans who came here in great numbers again to make the World Championship special. Speaking of numbers, here's the medal breakdown. Russia with a gold, silver, 3 bronze. Canada with 2 gold and a silver. The Ukraine a gold. France and Germany silvers, and China with a bronze medal. Over the course of the last week, we bumped into a few people who are proud to say that they were here in '62 when Donald Jackson won gold and when the Jelniks won the pairs competition. 30 years from now, we'll be proud to say that we were here the night that Brasseur and Eisler won gold and that Canada had a 1-2 finish from Browning and Stoico in the men's event. But enough about the past and the present. Barb and Paul, let's look ahead a little bit to the future.
Well, Chris, what a great week of drama and excitement, and our Canadian team just provided so many thrills for all of us here, and I'm sure all of you back home. But I think what we have to look forward to is next year's Olympics, because our team is probably going to be the best one that we have seen in many years.
And Barb, the competition for our Canadian teams is going to be stiff. I haven't been to a world championship where I've seen a level of competition as stiff as it was here. In all of the events, any 3 of the top performances could have won 10 years ago, but now it's so tough out there that you've got to skate and deliver. So going into the Olympic year, I think the sport of figure skating is riding a high right across the board.
All right, Paul, history does repeat itself. Maybe not completely, but it came very, very close. It was here in 1962 that Canada had its best ever performance. 2 gold, a silver, and a bronze. The Canadians in 93 missed by only a bronze. The 2 gold, Kurt Browning, Brasseur and Eisler, and the amazing silver by Elvis Stoico. One other poignant moment was yesterday when the young girl from the Ukraine, Oksana Bayul, won the women's crown, something no skater could do in the entire history of the Soviet Union. Her skating time and skates paid for by the 1992 world champion, Victor Petrenko. Many great stories, a lot of great skating. We've enjoyed it here in Prague. We hope you've enjoyed our coverage at home. And now for our technical crew, our production people, for Barbara Underhill, Paul Martini, and Chris Cuthbert, I'm Brian Williams. Good night from the World Championships in Prague, the Czech Republic.
With many outstanding memories, and one will be the abundance of incredibly fine talent from all over the world, much of it very young, bodes well for the future of this sport. And we're also caught exhausted with the depth of emotion incited by these championships. It was heart-wrenching watching Nancy Kerrigan's dismay, that big chance to win, be the world's best, gone. How does she explain that to herself, to her friends when she returns home? Tanya Kwiatkowski goes back to Ohio without even competing, failing in the qualifying at 22. Will there be other chances? Most of all, I was reminded of the inherent importance of the mother-daughter relationship in skating. Mothers like Surya Bonali's adopted mother, who proved she could fight with her daughter and win. Mothers like German Heidi Kielmann, who's just watched her daughter skate the performance of her life in the World Championships and feeling it at a special depth because she, for a lifetime, has been her daughter's coach. Mothers like Isabelle Brasseurs, who feel the pride of fathers who are gone. And finally, the 15-year-old Ukrainian champion, Oksana Bayul, with no mother. 2 years ago, the woman, the mother who encouraged a skating career, gone, dead at 36. Bayul, no brothers, no sisters, no father, no mother. 2 years after her death, this remarkable daughter has won an improbable world championship. And for the thousands who watched here in Prague and the millions who viewed worldwide, for a moment, we were the mother she doesn't have. We wanted to cry in her joy and hug with her hopes. For me, Oksana Bayul will always be Prague. What a world championship.